Our topic today is Life's Mirrors. What are we seeing? And I think this is a topic that many of us have pondered many times. This is a topic that we hear a lot on the spiritual path, that, life is a mirror. Other people are a mirror of ourselves. And, this line in this song is so important that it says, wind on a hill. Now, the wind on a hill is nothing really, it's just wind on a hill, but sounds lonely if you're sad, free if you're free, cheerful if you're glad. And I think that's a summation of this topic, and that's a summation of life, really, that we bring out to life what we have inside of ourselves. And, what we are will manifest in our life, and what we become also will manifest in our outer life. Sometimes I think also, many a times you see in movies or TV or comics or whatever, people going out in the rain and, dancing in the rain and enjoying that. Many a times it is because there is some release that they feel, some emotional release, and yes, and something like the rain that many people don't like, they feel releasing. Or you see, like, as a sign sometimes of people who are really content with themselves, that even the rain, they go and enjoy so much, getting wet and just feeling the rain. We also know that the rain and the clouds are used very often as a note of sadness. Somebody is pondering with a cup of tea, and there's rain outside and makes everything even more gloomy. And it's just many fun things that we see even in day-to-day life. You could say, I for one love the rain and it makes me very happy, but the darkness. I know when I used to live in Canada, there is very long winters over there. For 4 months, sometimes you barely see the sunlight. And whenever the sun comes, it comes for a few hours and then it hides again. And many people do get a lot of depression out of that, because the sun is a symbol usually of joy. But nevertheless, even in the cloudy days, in the rainy days, we can live in joy if we find that inner joy within ourselves. And we have to understand that life will bring to us whatever we are going through, whatever challenges we're facing. Probably we'll see them reflected in the world outside of ourselves. I think many a times, marriage or very close friendships are a reflection of that. Not because, yes, you see in one another what you need to improve within yourself. That's one aspect. But very often as a married couple, you go, or if you are very close with some guru bhais or with some friends, you will go to a certain place together, or you will be living through a certain situation together. And it's amazing to see how two people who perhaps are so close can see things so differently. It's because of their current inner reality. For some people, there is a tremendous opportunity for growth. There is a tremendous opportunity for expressing something from within them. But for some people, it's like, this is very tough. Oh my God, this is very sad. It's tough what's going on over there. And, those things tell you very clearly of the importance of this inner attitude, of being able to see the joy in life, of being able to feel the joy so that we can see the joy. It's interesting also, Swamiji will mention many times that as the reading Shamini did, there is two currents in life, one that is trying to bring us to our subconscious, one is trying to bring us up to our superconscious or cosmic consciousness, he said. And Swamiji would say that people who are overly negative, who are overly judgmental, who are overly indulging in these negative aspects of life and negative emotions, sometimes they perhaps will get sick without knowing why. Those acts of negativity or those thoughts of negativity will reflect in their bodies, perhaps as marks in their faces, perhaps as, not nourishing their bodies, and they perhaps, cannot put on weight or whatever it may be. That these psychological things will actually have an effect in our bodies, and sometimes if we don't know why are we getting sick, or why this or why that, oftentimes can be that our thoughts are not aligned, and therefore they manifest in our physical body. Now, the question always comes, does everything I see outside of me means that I have that in myself? So if I see someone very, very cruel, does it mean that, I have that in myself? Am I also cruel? Well, it's not like that, fortunately. Saints and holy people and wise people can see the bad things that are in the world as well. They're not dumb. As Swami Sri said, saintliness is not dumbness, that the divine perceptions give rise to the keenest of intelligence. So, no, we don't become dumb by seeing the joy in life, but we become happy and we become joyful and we become uplifted by seeing the joy in life. So what about all those things that, perhaps come to us, they seem to be undeserved, or perhaps we see the suffering in the world? Well, Master was very clear that, yeah, these things will happen. We are aware of them. It is only when we feel affected by them that we have to see the red flag, or when we become judgmental of them, that it becomes a red flag for us to say, this may be something that I have in myself. That's why I'm judging someone else for it, or that's why I'm feeling so affected by it. It's interesting. One time I was in high school, and I was always an odd kid, but I tried to fit in the best I could. And one time, the worst thing that can happen to any man in high school happened to me, which is I cried in front of people, in public high school. That's kind of a death sentence. But I started crying because, we had to do a project of, showing our family, some English project, I don't remember exactly. And I had put pictures of my family, and somebody was making fun of my brother for whatever reason. Teenagers do make fun of anything. And there was nothing to make fun of. And I remember I didn't know how to respond. I was very quiet, and then I started crying, which that seems like a wimp. And fortunately, the teacher told me to go out, and then that person came out and kind of apologized and all those things. But I was very sensitive to that. And then I think even perhaps that same day, it happened to me that we were actually watching some video of some natural something or the other, and there were some monkeys. And there was this particular person in our class that all of us will make somewhat fun of. And I started shouting, "Oh, look, it's like that guy and his family, like that is his family." And then a classmate came to me and said, you were crying because someone was making fun of your brother, and now you are making fun of, someone else. Oh my God, you're right. And it dawned on me that, I was being very critical. Not that I stopped, I was still a teenager, but that always remained with me. And then I realized further along that, move forward to when I came on the spiritual path. And again, on the spiritual path, I think we all make, pull each other's leg and things like that in a fun spirit. But then I started to realize that when people did it to me in a certain way, I started becoming defensive. I started shutting off and say, why are they saying? Not I will say it out loud. I will not say it out loud, but I was thinking, why are they saying those things about me? And then it dawned on me again, I can freely make fun, pull other people's legs, but when they do it to me in this particular way, I become very defensive. And I started to realize that, it started affecting me. Therefore, it means there must be something within me. I'm happy to say that now, I think I have overcome that to a great degree, if nothing else, because I don't feel affected anymore. But then you see, when that emotional reaction comes from us, it means that this mirror is telling me something, that I need to work for myself. Now, many a times, seeing the world as it is, and not through pink colored glasses, is a part of the spiritual path. A part of discrimination is to be able to see what lies behind the glamour of life, that there's a lot of glamour going on in people's lives, in this Maya itself, and we're able to see behind it that actually it's not as beautiful as it appears to be. That's the beginning of it. But as yogis, we had to go beyond that and try to find, yes, despite all of these things, there is a lot of joy to be found in life, and there is a lot of goodness to be found in life. And that's how we expand our sympathies. That's how we can develop kindness, can develop compassion, can develop all these wonderful qualities that are essential on the spiritual path. So we don't become dumb, but we become aware, and we start to become more a cause rather than an effect in life. And, we have to also understand that because we see bad around us, it's not always our place to go and try to correct it. Because sometimes there is nothing we can do, outwardly speaking. We can always pray, we can always ask Divine Mother to bring some light in a situation, but we can't always, go around and fixing everything. So what is more important for us is, whenever we see something outside that we don't like, see if it's something in ourselves, and be aware to what you put out. That's the main thing about this topic. We had to be aware what kind of energy we're putting out into the world, because more likely that's what we're going to receive. And yes, when you put kindness, you're not always going to receive kindness in return. There's other components out there. There's karma, there is other people's karma, there is so many things in our subconscious, in our samskars, that may attract those things to us. But as yogis, the most important thing is to always remember, even when these things come to me, I have to be grateful for them, because as a yogi, I see this has come to me for my spiritual progress, which is the main thing that we are concerned about. And because of that, what am I giving back to life? Even when life seems to be mistreating me, which God never mistreats us, but that's what we may feel. What am I giving back to God? What am I giving back to life? What am I giving back to the people who perhaps are, doing me harm? That is the key of this subject, and that's what we really have to focus upon if we want to become free of this whole mystery of judgment, of, letting circumstances toss us here and there. How can I see the divine in everything that comes to me? Now I open it for Shamini.
Thank you.
Who was forward.
That's one. So I'll pick up a little bit from the main essence that Baraquiel is talking about here. What do we do in this? What's our part? So, one thing when I was thinking about this topic, and I don't know if this has stayed with you quite a bit, but it certainly has for me. When I first heard, there's this line of Swamiji in one of his songs. It's called the Non-Blues. And he basically wrote it to say, to prove that he could write a sad song, but it ended up not being a sad song because his teacher told him your songs are too happy. And in that one line, when I was very new on the path, had really stuck in my mind, which was, I find that this whole world around me, like a mirror upon the wall, smiles back when I smile, looks blue when I'm blue. And that blue shade I don't like at all. That was something Swamiji added. He didn't like to go into the blues and the drudgery, but it smiles back when I smile. And that's actually literally something Swamiji would say. When he was younger, he used to smile at strangers, when he was a younger Swami even. And he used to walk on the road, he would smile. And then people would smile back at him sometimes, but maybe not, but he would still smile. And then he said towards a later part of his life, he found it very interesting that now it was that people would smile at him first, and he always thought that was an interesting thing that had happened there. Just that you put out that, and then that's what's going to come, that's what you also attract in the coming months, coming years, whatever it is. Eventually it is what you start getting also, how life starts looking at you as well. And so it's just something for us to keep in mind. It's like a lot of things, a lot of times, situations also, like Baraquiel was talking, they reflect something in us that we need to see, especially when we react to it, when we become judgy, when we get emotional, when we get upset about it. then there's something for us to see there. And in those moments, again, Swamiji says, rejoice, that finally something has been shown to you, which you may not have known otherwise. You may not have seen. It might have been hidden in there somewhere. And now this is a chance to work with it and to take that, as a way to use these mirrors sometimes in our dearest friends sometimes that reflects something is reflected that you don't like in our closest people, in the closest things that we have to do. When it's right here in front of you, oftentimes that's when you get to see, isn't it? But so here's an interesting question for us to also see. It's like, when you look at yourself in the mirror, let's just talk physical plane. When you, let's say, get up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you see? Is it the flaws, this, that? Oh no, I look tired today, or my eyes look red from sleepiness, or my hair is messy? Or do you see, okay, I look good today, I look well, or I feel well today? Which way do you see it? Or take it the other way as well, like when you look at other people, what are things that usually occur to us? Do we usually look at people and say, that person's like that person's like this, and you kind of make boxes? Or do we just allow, room for them to express different qualities? Or do we quickly box them in their flaws? Or we see one flaw and that's how we judge them forever? We all do a mix, I think, of all of these. But just look at even emotionally, your own self. Do you usually box the, I'm a very angry person, and that's my definition? Or, what do you see even in your own self? Sometimes with spiritual level, many people get stuck there and say, no, I just don't meditate, I'm not a meditator at all, And again, these are mirrors we say to ourselves, which either increase the faith in ourselves to keep going, or they can really pull ourselves down. And it's all in the mind, isn't it? It's all right here. And just how are we perceiving ourselves? How are we perceiving others? And in fact, all of this, we know, how does it change? It changes by when we come here and we sit in front of the gurus. How do we come? This is another question. How do we sit in front of the gurus every day? Do you sit there and have a lot of stuff? Or are you able to sit, look into their eyes, and let them mirror to you something that is your higher potential? Because that's what they are too, isn't it? They're also mirrors for us of the highest in us. But are we able to allow that and receive that? And it's just a very interesting, fascinating concept for us to just meditate on and pay attention very closely to what mirrors are around me. What have I been blessed to receive as mirrors? And also, what am I sharing with the world? And so more than any of this, remove all the good stuff, the bad stuff, because we have a mixture. We always have ups and downs, isn't it? But what we want to see, beyond all of that, we want to see the divine light shining. So I have this aunt who recently, she got diagnosed with a health problem. And, it's so interesting. She lives in Malaysia from my mom's side. And my only memory of this aunt somehow, she's always been a very bhakti person. Since my childhood, I just remember seeing this radiant light from her. I didn't necessarily notice that in others, but in her, it was very apparent, even though she tries to hide it very well, always putting attention on everyone else and never letting you see her. And now with this health challenges come, I was writing a message yesterday. What I got back was light, was just, I'll be out of this in a jiffy. Please don't worry about it, and making jokes, making others laugh. It's just like, that's amazing. That's where you see, like, I knew it. I was telling my mom, I knew she had something of the light inside her. That's what was shining through. And so what we want to see, though, is we want to see that divine light in everything. That's the true mirror. That's actually the reality. Master said, you all are so beautiful. If you could only see yourselves the way I see you, what was he seeing? Why can't we see it? And so it's just a very interesting concept. And so what do we do with this? And like Baraquiel also was saying, we focus also a little bit on what are we putting out. And there's this very nice 2 words which one of the devotees, a master, Kamala Silva, she described Master as the flawless mirror. And she wrote a book on Master and stories on him called The Flawless Mirror. And why the flawless mirror? Think about it. All our perceptions are blocked by lots of ego and lots of definitions we create. So then we see the flaws here, the flaws there. Sometimes we see the good, but then the flaws come back. What did he see? He saw us as light. If you could only see the way I see you, you would see how beautiful you are. And in that, when the devotee came and sat in front of him, he showed them their light. He showed them your highest potential. He showed them how much God loves them. And that's what we get to experience every day. And that's the hugest blessing we have on this path, isn't it? Is to be able to sit. And every time, how do we kind of strengthen that? Let's just take a couple of practical ways. Every time we sit in front of our altar, look into the eyes of the masters. The eyes have magnetism there. And then you sit, you look into the eyes and try to draw that magnetism from the masters. Try to let that light seep in. Let them reflect to you the highest in yourself. Let them draw out of you the highest in yourself. And go with that openness, because to those who received him, to them gave he the power. That's what Jesus said, right? To those who received Yogananda, to them he can give himself. To them he can be closer than ever. And the other ways are, not only are we able to, sometimes you're just going through something, let's say, it's too difficult. So maybe you're not able to meditate too deeply or feel this light. Use outer ways as well of it. So this happened just, the other day, but it's also happened many times where you say you're in a car and traveling, and it's kind of like, oh, this journey is so long. And in this case, we were coming back in the night from Jalandhar, which is about 2.5 hours from Chandigarh. And, in the winter here in the north, many of you who are in the north here in India would know it becomes a little smoggy. And so things start to look not so nice. And, we're on this highway. So with those street lights, you're looking, and it was all just looking, and there's construction and, those cranes. And we were kind of saying, my God, this looks kind of like, it doesn't look very, beautiful right now. It almost looked like a little bit of a war zone, you're going and there's all those smoky things. And I was just like, oh my God, yeah, I need to, do something to lift myself up. So I plugged in Swamiji on YouTube and I just started listening. And about 20 minutes later or something, as part of his talk, he talks of that thing, the quote of Krishna, who basically says, right, that get away from this ocean of misery. And Swamiji is saying this world is one test after another, and get away from this drudgery. And all I was thinking very sincerely was, what drudgery? What misery? And I was just like, I had to really think about that. And I was telling Sabar, like 20 minutes ago, I was looking like, oh God, it looks like a war zone. And now I'm like, what misery? What suffering? This is wonderful. What had happened, and I really had to think about that. And just 20 minutes with Swamiji changed my consciousness. This whole world that looks a certain way changes. Wind on a hill sounds lonely if you're sad. Free if you're free. If your consciousness changes. And I think a lot of Swamiji's talks, we don't take them, for the value they have, but use these outer ways of satsang as well. Not only that we have to try in silence, and we need to do that too and cultivate that, but sometimes if you need it, use those outer tools, because I think he gave them to us knowing that we are going to need those reflections, those mirrors as well of his talks. I think he knew in the future all of us would be listening to this, which will help lift us out of very dark situations sometimes, and just our own misery and suffering, becomes a way of lifting out. So let's use these ways, and as Baraquiel was saying, the main thing in this is we want to shine that divine light for others. We want to be positive mirrors for the world. We want to be the light for others. You can't do that if we don't have it ourselves, isn't it? So the more we pay attention again to what are these reflections that life has offered me, that the Guru is offering me daily, sometimes to see difficult things in myself, but sometimes to push me to be a light for someone else. And the more we do that, again, the more we are blessed, the more we are instruments for that light.